Well, good morning and happy Saturday, everybody. I am sports mental health empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. That is my amazing colleague and co-host, mental health counselor and former student athlete, Ronnie Ransome Jr. And this is House Talk Pregame. Welcome back, everybody. Hey.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Dr. Pitts. Wonderful to be
Morning.
back here. Got some snow last night
I
from this.
heard y'all up there getting clunked in the head.
Yeah, this nor'easter Keenan or Kane. I think it's Keenan. Kenan, something like that. Yeah, but we only got about a good inch and a half. So nice to see some snow. But yeah, so once again, y'all, emotional well-being is important to any athlete's success academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. However, untreated mental health problems, those can result in undue suffering, diminished positive effect, and a balance in their life. Most psychiatric disorders, however, in student athletes can improve and resolve with the proper treatment and resources.
For many athletes, being mentally tough means never showing weakness, never admitting that you're not okay, and never sharing your mental health struggles with anyone. Unfortunately, these decisions can have disastrous consequences, as we hear and see way too often. The good news is that a lot of people in an athlete's life, from coaches to parents to fellow players, really can make a positive difference when it comes to mental health. When athletes properly care for their body and mind, they do far better in their athletic performance and, more importantly, in life.
Absolutely. And the mental health of athletes is important. And here at Pregame, we will always discuss why and why that matters. From why mental health matters to how to get proper treatment and so much more. This is what it's all about here at Pregame. Heightening mental health awareness. Mental health is a lot more than just simply the absence of mental disorders. It also involves a constant and active effort towards maintaining happiness and a mental well-being.
It's all about optimal health because optimum health is fundamental to an athlete's ability to enjoy their life. But to achieve this, it is essential to strike a balance between one's personal and professional responsibilities, social life, and daily activities. However, several external factors, such as the need to maintain social and financial standing, lifestyle choices, and other biological factors, can disrupt the delicate balance and lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah, so it's really important that athletes must maintain their mental health to balance the pressures to succeed and perform well during competitions. While more and more athletes and coaches are beginning to recognize the importance of mental health in sports, mental health has historically been an unspoken issue within the realm of athletics, but not here on Pregame. So not only can you join our discussions live, but you can also catch us on HSRN every Saturday at this very same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, and also at 10 p.m., as well as on Sundays at 6 p.m. And always remember, HSRN is empowering the HBCU family's head, heart, and hands to deliver the impact we all know it can. So don't forget to catch our lineup of other great shows.
Absolutely. And, we also want to invite you to join us each week as part of the virtual audience by registering via the Zoom link that's available on all of our social media platforms, or you can email us at htpregame@gmail.com because we really do want to get some input for you. We want to know your thoughts about the topics that we're discussing, if there's any topics that you would like for us to cover, the questions, comments, please share that with us because it only serves to enhance the show.
Definitely. And look, y'all, we have another great topic lined up for you all today. Today's show is going to be talking about competitive advantage. So aside from your basic abilities in speed, strength, control, and whatever else is required to master in your sport, what's going to set you apart and truly excel in whether you have developed mental toughness? So we're going to be talking about all the things that go into, we know the physical aspects of, preparing for sports and being physically ready, but what all does it take to be mentally ready and build that mental toughness during sports? So we're going to be talking about all those things today, as well as, once again, some news in the HBCU world and also our mental health tips of the week. So Dr. Pitts, you want to go first?
Sure. You want me to do HBCU news or mental health tips? Which one you want me to do first? I'm ready for both today.
Oh, I got. Okay, well, we should be sharing the same things for the HBCU news, but yeah, we can do the mental health tip first.
Okay. I just, in light of today's topic, I really wanted to point out from a mental health perspective that For as much as we talk about the competitive advantage and how important it is to have that competitive edge, you really have to be careful and make sure that you're striking a balance when it comes to your competitive nature, because research has shown that being overly competitive can lead to an individual feeling inferior to their counterparts who may be doing better than them in the sport, which has also been linked to depression, anxiety, stress, and self-harm. So, clearly we understand how important it is to be competitive. We understand how important it is to get that advantage, but getting that advantage should not come at the cost of your mental health. So when you think about your competitive nature, I want to talk to you just as my tip about how to tame that competitive nature, because there are a few things that you can do to help you to strike that balance. You can recognize that it's important to focus on a goal that's about self-mastery rather than one about beating others. If the emotions that accompany your competitiveness have any fear or negativity, try to release the critical voice. Ask, what is the best feeling I can have for this task without it involving dominating or conquering anyone else? Watch the language you use around competition. Aim for striving, passion, possibility, and us, and turn away from fear, victory, glory, and me. Consider the difference between your outcome goals and your purpose. The metaphorical scoreboard is an outcome. Your purpose is why you do it and how it enriches you and others. I think that ties into what I was saying last week.
Yeah.
Practice gratitude. Thank silently or otherwise each person who helped positively shape your capabilities. Perhaps someone will be thanking you too. The reality of this is that competitiveness will no doubt share center stage with the Super Bowl coming up, and we're going into basketball season, and then we're going to have the NBA playoffs and all this stuff. It's throughout our culture. In this country, we are just all about our sports, but it's very important to make sure that you're maintaining that balance and that your competitive nature doesn't get you over into a mental health issue or disorder, because you're in essence taken over by having that competitive advantage and trying to prove how much better you are than anybody else in an unhealthy way. That's all I have for that one, Ronnie.
I think that's a really important tip, and from the standpoint of, I think a lot of the times, how we, especially football, speaking from a football perspective, I think in football, a lot of the times how we handle situations off the field is sometimes how we handle situations on the field as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if off the field, you're more prone to, make competitions, more about you, or, if you lose and you become a sore loser and things like that, you're more likely to do that on the field as well. And so, I think striking that balance of when, how, finding how to handle situations off the field, but also how to have that anger and that competitive edge turn into a positive light on the field, on the court, whatever sport you play, because we always talk about it. Anytime, in football, anytime I could get you off your game, anytime I can make the game about me and you, I've won.
Yeah.
If I can make you not think about the team and make it personal, then I'm in your head. So my job is a lot easier now. I can take you out the game if I want to, because now you're so worried about proving me wrong instead of just proving yourself right and doing what you need to do. And we often have, a lot of us do that off the field too.
Yeah.
Whether it's relationships, whether it's at work, whether it's in school, oftentimes we're trying to prove people wrong so much that we don't sit there and prove ourselves right. So I do like that tip. My mental health tip of the week, and this is more of I guess it's a financial tip, but it's also, it helps mental health too. And I'll tie it all in together. So, we all know it's tax time. We all know it's tax time. And for our student athletes out there, I also know it's refund check time. I done seen all y'all's Instagram posts all week talking about when you get that email. I ain't gonna lie, I missed that email. Boy, look, There
It was
are
a beautiful email, wasn't it?
there are a few things in college that when you normally when you get email in college, it's either about a teacher with an assignment, school open, closed, whatever the case may be. But when you see that email from the registrar's office saying that refund in process,
Everybody happy.
what? Yo, man, I ain't gonna. I've said it on here before. My first refund check, 1,600, freshman. What? Ain't never had 1,600 one time ever in my life. Gone in one day.
Oh goodness.
Gone. So why is this a mental health tip of the week? So the reason I brought this up is, it's tax time, it's refund check time. So I always tell people, everybody gets excited about income tax time and things like that, tax season and all that, because you get a big refund. I'm not a financial expert in no way, shape, or, fashion, however, because I have a lot of work to do financially. So, I'm learning as well. But I will say this, though. I think oftentimes, athletes, families of athletes and things like that, we oftentimes put ourselves behind when we get that money. We sometimes spend it on things we don't necessarily need. Now, I know some families, they spend it to have family vacations or family trips and things like that. Cool, whatever. If that's what you want to do for your family, that's an awesome way to spend time with your family and things like that. However, they know who I'm talking about. Like, them families know who I'm talking about. When you get that tax money and that tax money is spent before you even went to go see the tax lady to file your taxes. All right. And for my athletes out there, when it comes to refund checks, trust me, I know how quick that money can go. All right. I done seen 1 rack, I done seen 5 racks on refund checks. All right. I know how fast that money can go when you literally 19, 20 years old and you just trying to live life. It's fun. It sounds good. If I could tell my 18 and 19-year-old self something right now, I promise you, the first thing I would tell him is, them refund checks, save them. Save. Now, I know some student athletes, and a lot of student athletes actually do this. They take the refund checks and that's how they pay to live off campus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I get it. You want to live off campus, have an apartment, everything, cool. For some, some they have to do that. However, for those who don't have to be in that situation, save it. Save it, save it, save it. I promise you, unless you are an entrepreneur and you just hit it off right out of college, you won't see chunks of money like that at one time for a very long time. Save that money. All right. Because I promise you, what things are going right now, inflation is up, I think, almost 7% since September. So prices have gone up, raises are not going up as much. So for those out there who are actually in the real world and understand what I'm talking about, save that money. To my young athletes out there listening, and to the families out there, do right by your families. Teach your student athletes how to budget that money right now. If you get a large sum for your taxes, teach your kids about that money. Teach them how to budget that money, how to save it, how to invest it, how to do things with it that's going to help the family in the future. All right. So we got to do better. We got to be able to uplift each other. We got to be able to have these conversations. I think I saw a post, and I wanted your opinion on this real quick, Dr. Fish, before we move on. I saw this quote where it said, in the Black community, we see nepotism as a negative thing, because oftentimes when somebody make it, what do you always hear? When somebody make it, it's always either that person turn around and say, well, hell, I made it, you can make it too. Or it's somebody gets jealous of that person and they try to bring that person down because they're not there. And I think, I think as a culture, as a people, I think we have to get back to a healthy nepotism, helping our children. I always see all the time where people say, I struggled, I got it out the mud and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah, a lot of people got it out the mud. A lot of people have had to struggle. But the goal is not to have your children struggling either, because that we're not moving forward. We're not advancing as a people. We're not advancing as families, looking out for each other, taking care of each other, if we're always having to start over with each generation. They say wealth only lasts 3 generations, but imagine if Black families had 3 generations of wealth, how much further that family could be, even if it starts over. How much further that family could be if they had 3 generations of wealth prior to that. So I think, that's my mental health tip of the week. Make smarter decisions with your money this year. I know it's tax time. People get excited and things like that, but make smarter decisions with your money this year.
You want my opinion on the nepotism?
Sure.
I mean, the dominant culture has been doing it for years. I agree that, and I think that for those that don't embrace nepotism, I think that it speaks to a scarcity mindset. Um, you know, don't look for a handout, look for a hand up. I believe, Andre's father and I have talked over the years about positioning him to be on home plate. It's like, you can set your children up to live in the dugout. You can set your children up to live on first base, second base, third base, or come on around back to home plate for the grand slam home run. My everything that I have done throughout the course of my adult life has been to ensure that Andre benefits from the grand slam home run. I don't I think that it's more important to teach gratitude and appreciation and thanksgiving rather than to teach struggle, heartache, and pain. And I'm not talking about it within the context of giving him everything so that he doesn't understand the meaning of working for what he has. I believe that you can instill a rock solid work ethic in your children without them having to claw and scrape and shed blood, sweat, and tears to get ahead. I think that it's a paradigm shift that needs to occur in people's thinking. I just, I understand that experience is a good teacher, and that's all fine, well, and good. We've been hearing it throughout time. But more importantly, I believe that wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. And I choose to raise my son with that frame of mind, that learn from the mistakes that I've made, that your father has made, that those that have gone before you have made. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily. We've made enough mistakes that you can learn from those mistakes, you can glean from those mistakes, and you can do things in a much better way, utilizing, a lot more wisdom in making those decisions. So yeah, I don't have a problem with nepotism. But I would, there's people that I wouldn't hire. I mean, to be completely honest, in my family, but definitely want
at least your children, and I think
and that's the thing. I don't like the term stepchildren. I see it now as I have 4 children. So doing what I can, and Eric and I talk about that often, making the necessary provisions, and it's biblical, Ronnie. The word of God talks about leaving an inheritance to your children's children's children. I believe, and it's, it's all over. It's on our manifestation board. It's in my notes. It's in my Bible, that everything that I do, and now everything that we do, is about creating a godly legacy and inheritance for our children, so that long after we're dead and gone, they can carry on that generational wealth that we're working so hard to build and to sustain.
One last financial mental health tip, since we're on this kick. Go get some life insurance, y'all.
Yeah.
Go do that.
Yep.
Look, and the reason I say
life insurance is really death insurance.
and that's the reason I say that, is because it kills me to see, when I see those GoFundMe posts for families, for funeral costs and things like that. It breaks my heart, because it's like, damn, you can't even bury your loved one, the way you want to, without having that, ask for money and hope that people give you that money. So go get some life insurance.
Yeah.
Go get it for your kids. And if you want to know however much debt you got, add funeral costs to that, there's your amount. You're good to go. There's a million places you can get life insurance from now. They ain't even got to come to your house no more. You can just talk to them over the phone. Boom, you insured. Good to go. So take care of that. So all right. Moving on to
HBCU news.
So now I hope we don't take each other's news, but
we probably are. We're probably gonna talk about the same thing because it's such a big deal. You talking about the HBCU Combine?
Well, I was gonna get to that, but I'll let you go ahead and take that.
I just wanted to make sure that we highlight the top players to keep an eye on for the upcoming NFL's HBCU Combine. But before we do that, Ronnie, would you do me the honor of letting our viewing and listening audience know what a combine is? Because some people might not know what that is.
So the NFL Combine, or for this instance, the NFL HBCU Combine. So the Combine is basically like, for those who are in high school and things like that, they'll know that Nike, Under Armour, Rivals, they all have these camps. And at these camps, you normally do speed, agility tests, whether it's the 40, 3-cone shuttle, 20-yard shuttle, things like that, the L shuttle, the L cone shuttles, things like that. Also, you'll be doing, now at the NFL Combine, you do things such as bench press, you do vertical, you do long jump, and then you also do position-specific drills. So if you're quarterback and wide receivers and running backs will normally go all on the same day. Quarterbacks will throw different routes for the receivers will run the route tree. Running backs will show that they can pass block and things like that. Linemen will do, bag drills. They don't do one-on-ones at the NFL Combine, but it's basically showcasing your physical talents. And oftentimes you hear at the combines that, you can't teach speed, you can't teach size. And a lot of people, I'll never forget it because that was my dream school at one time, but University of Maryland had this receiver by the name of Darius Hayward Bay. For college, he was a pretty decent receiver. But when he got to the NFL Combine, I want to say he ran like a 4.31 or 4.30. It was like a low 4.3, almost maybe a 4.29. It was really, really low. That got him to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft because you can't coach that type of speed. Now, that speed doesn't always necessarily translate, to the football field in a sense of production. However, the Combine gives people a chance to showcase physical talents that oftentimes you might not be able to show on the football field. And if we're being honest, now I will say this. Now, before I say that, I'm gonna do the sandwich technique here. So I do think that it is awesome that they're having this HBCU Combine. It's long overdue. And like I've said before, there is immense talent at the HBCU level. Mm-hmm. We clearly see it at the NFL level right now, but there is immense talent that oftentimes gets overlooked at the HBCU level. So I think it's awesome that they're having this Combine. However, those who, play football or play sports and things like that know that just because you have great combine numbers does not mean that it translates to production on the football field. Once again, you can go have a 4.2 40 speed. You can go bench press 225 50 times, have a 45-inch vertical, have a 10-foot long jump and things like broad jump and things like that. But that does not mean that you can go sack the quarterback, that you can get the throw the ball between the needle, between two linebackers and a safety's arm. That doesn't mean you can pancake the guy in front of you or be able to kick, step, and block. Doesn't mean none of that. It just means you are a physical specimen. So keep that in mind. So while it is important to do as best as you can there, understand that at the end of the day, your film at the end of the day is your overall grade. All right. So I think it is special that they are having this combine. I think it's long overdue because, like I said, there is way too much talent at the HBCU level that does not get recognized and at least get a legitimate shot at the NFL.
So there's 5 players that we really want to keep an eye on. We have D. Anderson, wide receiver, Alabama A&M. Mm-hmm. Keith Corbin III, wide receiver, Jackson State. Akil Glass, QB, Alabama A&M. Trey Groves, wide receiver, Del State. All right, Hornets in the house. Corey Rahman, and he's safety from Tennessee State. So keep an eye on them. The HBCU Combine is being held at the University of South Alabama Training Center in Mobile, and I do believe it is February. No, the Senior Bowl is February 5th. I don't have a date for the Combine. I think it's coming up.
I think it's this week. It's actually this weekend.
Is it this weekend?
Yeah, because
I didn't see the date. When I pulled the story, I didn't see the date, but it's pay attention to it.
Speaking of the HBCU Combine, real quick, I gotta do this plug. Shout out to 3 of our very own Trojans from the Virginia State University.
Okay.
Oh Lord, what we got Javon Frazier, defensive end,
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wilcox, and oh Lord, I don't have the safety's name, but his last name is Adams. But
Mm-hmm.
shout out to them being at the HBCU Combine this weekend, representing Virginia
Nice.
State University. Good luck
Nice.
to all of them this weekend. Go out there and ball out. This is your chance. We always talk
Yep.
about getting
Shine.
it. Oftentimes you get the chance, but will you take the chance?
Yeah.
So, good luck to them. Super excited to have some Trojans down there. Wish we'd have had this when I was playing. I ain't gonna lie to you. I really wish we'd have had this. Boy, I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't a combine person. Like I had decent numbers. Like even in high school, I had decent numbers and whatnot. I won't blaze it on the 40 or anything for a lineman.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this is awesome for them. So shout out to all of them. Good luck this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. And good luck to all the athletes down there this weekend. In other HBCU news, oh no, let me get back to my point. So Hampton University is joining the Colonial Athletic Association, leaving the Big South Conference.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been 4 years since they left the MEAC, and they were in the Big South for the previous 3 years. So this year they'll be joining the Colonial Athletic Association. If you're not familiar, who's in that conference? That is William and Mary, Richmond, JMU, I think Delaware, New Hampshire, teams like that. So they're out there with really good competition, and for the CAA and FCS competition, that's a really good level. JMU is always competing for a national title now. Richmond has their years where they're pretty good. So I think this is wonderful for Hampton. Try and put themselves in a position to get that notoriety and show that they can compete at that level. So good luck to them. And also shout out to Coach Prime's son, Shador Sanders, for being the first HBCU athlete to sign an NIL deal with Gatorade.
Nice.
So he's going to be sponsored by Gatorade for the upcoming season on an NIL deal. So shout out to him after having a phenomenal freshman season. So looking forward to that. So shout out to Shador.
Good stuff.
Get that money. I you know what? Now that I'm seeing how this NIL stuff works, I can't how can you be mad at the kids?
No, make that money.
I ain't gonna lie. Bryce Young had 800,000 coming into the season, and he went out there and won the Heisman. He ain't let that money get to his head. So and
it's called entrepreneurship.
Hey, and it's crazy. A lot of these kids, like the 2 kids from Oklahoma, like Spencer Rattler, he just left Oklahoma. Is coming to South Carolina. The only reason he coming to South Carolina because South Carolina just threw him a bag.
Come on here.
He only got to stay there 1 year. He can go to another. He can go to another school and get a whole nother bag.
Wow.
Can't be mad at him.
You think they're gonna end up modifying that?
They're gonna have to. They're not gonna have to, but they will.
You think so?
Yeah, because it's literally like. It's. I don't want to say it's like a live auction, but it's really like to the highest bidder. Like whichever booster says,
come on over here.
I'll pay for him to come here.
Don't that sound familiar?
They were offering Caleb Williams, the other kid from Oklahoma. I think it was Ole Miss. A booster from Ole Miss was like offering him $1 million to come there.
Isn't that exactly how Colin depicted it in his documentary?
Yeah,
it's like the auction.
It is. But I think.
I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying that it's a comparable concept.
You know what I do like about it? It's gonna benefit the kid who's really good in college, but isn't able to go to the NFL, or hell, it doesn't even. I wonder how many kids now, because I'm pretty sure not all of them, but I'm pretty sure this will come up. There will be some kids who, let's say they have a really good college career. Let's say they play D1 level. They get all conference in their conference. Let's say they get all conference in the SEC for a couple of years. Let's say they rack up maybe, I don't know, 300,000-400,000 in NIL deals, but they have no shot of going to the NFL and they don't want to go. If I'm graduating college at 21, 22 with 300,000-400,000,
And don't have to tear your body up no more.
And if I was that good of a player to get that type of money, I already didn't have to pay for school anyway. So I'm leaving school with no college debt, a hefty bank account.
Look,
It's a
hopefully
win-win.
an honest financial advisor.
Hopefully.
So your money can grow for you while you're sleeping.
So I think, I like it. I really like it. I was kind of worried because I didn't know, because we're talking about mental toughness and competitive edge today.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how it was going to affect the mental toughness of some kids because, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I go out here in college and y'all don't gave me 50,000 for the season and I go out here and get messed up. I mean, I might not want to do that no more.
Right.
I got 50,000. You can make at 18, 19 years old, you can do a lot with 50,000 to put yourself in a position to be far ahead of a lot of kids who are in college at that moment. So
absolutely.
I think I like it, and
there ought to be parameters. There ought to be, I think to research it further, but
it's either going to be like baseball because honestly, the highest bidder is always going to be the school that has the boosters that are willing to front the checks.
Right. That's right.
Which is crazy now because now think about it, like somebody like Reggie Bush had all them boosters paying for this and paying for that, paying for his family a house and stuff like that. They were doing that behind closed doors. Imagine what boosters would be willing to pay now that they can openly talk about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's just like everything else. Good intentions, and there's just always room for stuff to become convoluted, and then what do you do? It's like anything else. There more than likely there's going to be a need for modification because there's just always room for stuff to go in a direction that nobody intended for it to go, and you can't plan for everything. And there's so much more that has to be taken into consideration from a financial literacy standpoint when you're talking about young people who have never in their entire life encountered this much money at one time. You would hope that the appropriate supports are being put in place so that it doesn't end up being
especially protection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like especially because I was just thinking about that, like, well, hell, like they're really good, and it's not like these deals are done under the table. They're average. Like Shador Sanders, the whole world knows now he's sponsored by Gatorade.
Yeah,
the first kid to be sponsored by Gatorade in college, especially the first HBCU athlete. Now he in Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, I don't know that much about Jackson, Mississippi, but I know people down in the SIP. The third coach represent us down there. Hey, it's crime everywhere.
Ronnie, my former pastor used to say, he used to say you need to have a passport to go to Mississippi.
I believe it. You got to go down to the SIP. Shoot, you probably got to check in with David Banner and everything still.
Craziness in the deep.
So, man, Dr. Pitt, speaking of, mental toughness and things like that in sports, can we really flesh out what happened last weekend? Because I'm not going to lie to you. From an NFL standard, I don't think you could have picked 4 games to be like that ever. I don't think you'll ever find 4 NFL games in one weekend like that. Like, I mean, 4 walk-offs, 4 game-winning drives. Like, first of all, speaking of mental toughness, we just gonna jump right in. Let me tell you this, right? I'm gonna paint the story, then I'm gonna tell a story. The mental toughness that the Kansas City Chiefs showed last week.
Mahomes earned his gunslinger stripes. Look, you see my kid. What I tell you last time, I said my Cowboys aren't there. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. Go Andy Reid, Mahomes, and the Chiefs. And I like Kelsey too.
Man, like, look. So my last year of Little League football, right? Last year of Little League football, we were in the second round of the playoffs. We had only lost 1 game that whole season. I think we were 9-1 at that time. Flying out like now. So that whole season we had been skating by, we had just won the championship the year before. So we were kind of skating by, just trying to get back to the big game and whatnot. So I never forget it. We played this team, Salem Cowboys. And they had this running back. This running back, I kid you not, was no more than maybe 90 pounds soaking wet at
Oh, wow.
11, well, 12, 13 years old, about 90 pounds soaking wet. Here we are, fourth quarter. It's 6 seconds left in the game. It's tied up 6-6. And they're on their, I want to say like 20, 25-yard line. I'm thinking like, all right, we just going last play. We're going to go to overtime. We're going to win the game. We're going to keep it pushing. I never forget it. They did a sweep left and they pulled, but they were the only team in Little League that now, granted, now for the people out there listening, when I played Little League, I'm talking about literally from 01 to 06. Like, so, like we didn't have passing. Like you didn't pass back then for real, for real. You still ran the ball. It was only so many plays you was going to do. We had like 6 plays, like run left, run right, run up the middle, run to the middle left, middle right, quarterback sneak, sweep.
Just run.
We had one pass. That was it. Boom, whole playbook. So literally last play of the game, they snapped the ball, sweep left. They pull. Now they were the only team in the county that would pull linemen. Unheard of for Little League kids to pull at the time, at least in our area. So they pull all their linemen, and I kid you not, this dude ran the whole length of the field and scored a walk-off touchdown. Literally career over. Blew my mind. And it's crazy. And what's crazy is that same kid,
for you?
that same kid that ended my Little League career, we ended up playing at Virginia State together. And that was the first thing I told him.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't forgot because he played at the high school that we played against each year. And he beat us my senior year too. And I never forgot that. I was like, yo, like real talk, like you was great in high school, but I ain't forgot Little League when you ended my career.
Wow. Ronnie holds grudges.
What? Oh yeah, I ain't forget that one, man.
Oh my gosh.
I ain't forget that one. But anyway, so the mental toughness you have to have, and I mean literally 13 seconds left in a playoff game. Like people don't understand, like, everybody, it sounds good. Everybody wants to, the last second on the clock. Everybody wants to catch the Hail Mary pass or throw the Hail Mary touchdown and things like that. But nobody understands, like, to get to that point in a game, to get to a point where you're literally like, this is it. Like, we don't have if we don't score, if we don't win the game now, that's it. It's a wrap. Season over, you're going home. To be in a situation like that is not always a fun situation.
It's nerve-wracking. It makes you, it just gets, it's nerve-wracking as a fan. I can't even imagine what it is for them on the field. Like, it makes you want to just pass out.
And even the greatest of players, even the Jordans, the LeBrons, the Elways, the Tom Brady's and things like that, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you, now somebody like Tom Brady who's been in those situations umpteen thousand times, I'm pretty sure for him, he's seen it all, done it all, so he might be a little bit more cool, calm, and collected. But however, for those who are experiencing it for the first time, it is surreal to be in a situation like that, to be in the 2-minute drill, to be in where you have to, you got to run down the field. To your point, even in the Dallas game against the 49ers, when they're running down the field, people don't understand, like, especially from a lineman's perspective, like, you over here blocking, you already gassed and stuff, and now you got to sprint 40 yards down the field, get set for a second, snap the ball, and boom, make sure everything's good. Well, people don't understand, like, building up to that, getting to that point in a game, like, if you're not ready for that moment, if you're not built for that moment, if you haven't prepared for that moment, then oftentimes you'll catch yourself in a position where you react as opposed to you think instead of just reacting. Because the moment you think on the field, you're beat. The moment, give you a point example, the Tampa Bay game against the Rams. The moment that the two linebackers said they didn't hear the call about it being
that whistle, that was that game, right? That was the Buffalo game. One of the games, remember there was an issue with a whistle and they said that the call was played dead and that it was going to be controversial. You remember, was it the Buffalo game where it was a whistle but it was like, was it a whistle from the stands or was it a whistle from the
I don't, that
line?
might have been the That might have been the
And they
Buffalo
were,
game.
and the teams, I think that was, it might have been the Buffalo game, but it
It
was
might
one of the
have.
games where there was a controversial score and
Mhm.
whistle, and it became an issue, and all the commentators were talking about how it
Oh,
was
no,
going to
no, no,
be
no, no, no,
a
no.
major issue because the call
That
was
was
blown.
it was the Cincinnati game. That was
Was
2 weeks
it
ago.
Cincinnati?
It was the
Was it
Cincinnati when they
okay,
played Oakland. Because no, yeah,
Vegas?
who did Cincinnati play last week? Cincinnati played
I don't remember.
Cincinnati just beat Tennessee. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Was it the Cincinnati Tennessee?
It was
What did the
yeah,
Cincinnati Tennessee game with
because
the
it
issue
was Joe
with the
Burrow running out
whistle
of
and the play
bounds.
being called dead, but they let it go, and it's like, wait.
It was the Tennessee game because Joe Burrow was running out of bounds, and like right before he stepped out of bounds, they heard a whistle, but he threw the ball and it was for a touchdown. So
And
they
they
didn't
let it
know if it
stand.
was like the refs or somebody. Yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
it was the Cincinnati game. But like people don't understand like those moments, as fun as they are, like to be in a moment like that is a game-winning drive is like you talking about adrenaline rushes, like you talking about being hyper focused and just having tunnel vision. Like it is a surreal moment, and a lot of things are moving really fast. Like I always tell people the longest quarter of any game is the third quarter. I used to hate the third quarter because the third quarter would just take forever. First 2 quarters fly by. Third quarter, I mean, just
Watch the
takes
paint
forever.
dry.
And don't have the lead, because if you thought the third quarter was long, boy, that fourth quarter even long. People think having a nice cushion. Now, if you have like a 3 or 4 score lead, hey, yeah, you good. When you only got a 1 or 2 score cushion going into that fourth quarter, man, that 15 minutes can't go by fast enough, because you're like, look, bro, we just trying to keep this game ahead. We just trying to stay good, get out this game, keep pushing. But so what is mental toughness? Mental toughness has been referred to as one of the most important psychological characteristics for successful performance in sports. But what really is mental toughness? How can we measure it, and how can athletes develop it? So, by definition, mental toughness is the company of one or more learned and inherited values, attitudes, emotions, cognitions, and behaviors. These attributes impact the way an individual copes with pressures, stressors, challenges, and adversities in training and competitions. So, in its simplest terms, mental toughness is an umbrella term for a collection of psychological characteristics which are essential to helping an athlete cope during varying degrees of situational demands. Some athletes may be innately disposed to managing hardship and adversity well, but we know from the definition these characteristics can also be learned and developed. This can be through athletes using a collection of resources through mental skills training. So when we think of mental toughness, as it says, is like an umbrella. And so even when we think of when I think of mental toughness, the first athlete I always think of is Kobe Bryant and Mamba mentality. And when you think of Mamba mentality, I'm gonna share a story real quick that Jay Williams has shared, when Kobe Bryant had passed away. And it just goes to show you this is, I think, the true essence of mental toughness and showmanship in the sports realm. So Jay Williams, I think this was his rookie season. And for those who don't know, Jay Williams, he's a commentator on ESPN NBA, one of their shows. But before that, he was regarded as one of the best players to come through Duke University in college basketball. I think he got drafted by the Bulls or the Hornets. I can't remember, one of those two, and actually ended up getting into a motorcycle accident. And I think that cost him his career. But from a college standpoint, phenomenal athlete, phenomenal college basketball player. So his rookie season, they were playing the Lakers, and he had mentioned, he went to the gym to, warm up and whatnot, before the game and everything. And he said when he got in there, he was putting his shoes on, and he heard a ball bouncing, and Kobe was in there. And he said Kobe was, practicing moves, taking shots and whatnot. And so Jay was like, he worked out for 45 minutes, worked up a good sweat, worked out for 45 minutes, and was good. He said when he's taking the shoes off, he still heard the ball bouncing. Kobe Bryant was still taking shots. And he was like, Kobe Bryant wasn't just taking, just play around shots. He was doing basketball moves, actually working on basketball moves, situations, and taking those shots, drenched in sweat. So he said he stood there and watched Kobe for about 25 minutes just to see how long he was going to work out for. And so he was like, after the game, he's like, I got to ask Kobe, how do you do that? How do you work out like that before a game? And he said Kobe went out there and dropped 40 on him that game. So he was like, yo, like, how do you do this? And Kobe was like, when I saw you in there, I wanted to work out longer than you because I wanted you to know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to beat you.
Wow.
And I mean, when I think of mental toughness and competitive edge, like that story right there is like, to me, is like the essence of that, like the essence of what it means to have supreme mental toughness and a mental edge about you that puts you in a position to perform well on the athletic field. Because what would we always say? Sports is 90% mental, 10% physical. If I can take your mind, what we always say, if you take the person's mind, you take their body with them. And, you know, but building that is not, you have to earn mental toughness in sports.
In life.
Same thing. Exactly. Same thing.
I think it's on and off the field or the court or whatever. I think mental toughness is relevant in life too. We call it resilience.
Absolutely. And, you know, so you ask yourself, well, how do you build mental toughness? How do you prepare to have mental toughness? And the short answer to that is you just got to go through it. Our coach used to always say, you got to survive the S storm or the poop storm for, you know, the PG listeners out there. You got to survive it because it's going to happen. There's going to be a moment in the game. Like, look at the Rams last week. Even though the Rams had built up a 23-7 lead, they had 4 turnovers in the second half. They had to survive that. And they were playing against arguably the greatest football player to ever put on a pair of cleats. And sure enough, in Tom Brady fashion, came all the way back and tied the game. Now, you talking about mental toughness. Imagine having the lead on the GOAT.
Yep.
Greatest player of all time. I mean, y'all out there just destroying. Can't do nothing. Now, granted, you know, Tom Brady had a lot of weapons missing and, you know, his offensive line was banged up. But by all accounts, hey, you got to get it how you can. But imagine then all of a sudden you're looking in. Now he's throwing a touchdown to Leonard Fournette to tie the game. And y'all looking around like,
what just happened?
What
we get here?
Bro, what's going on out here? And they didn't fold. They didn't waver. They didn't give up. But how do you get to that point? What do you have to do to get to that point? So people have done research on this. You know, there have been sports psychologists who have done research on this and things like that. And so they have this thing called the 4 C's model that is kind of a psychological skills training for athletes. And the 4 C's comprises of control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. So when we think of control, oftentimes, what do we know in sport? And especially in team sports, the only oftentimes the control you have is just you as the player. Perfect example, on the offensive line. Now, as a unit, as the 5 of us, the center, 2 guards, and 2 tackles, as a unit, we must move in synchrony. But within that synchrony, you have 5 individuals who must have control over their situation. At center, I can't control what the right guard does. Now, if we have to double team, if we got a combo block and work up to the play side linebacker, now we have to move in synchrony. But a double team doesn't consist of just one person blocking. A double team takes 2 people. So I have to trust that my teammate is going to be able to do his job. But I also have to have that trust and that knowing within myself that I'm going to make sure I do my job. Control what I can control. Coaches say that all the time. Control what you can control within a game. I can't go out there and run the route for the receiver. I can't throw the ball for the quarterback. But I can control snapping the ball to the quarterback and making sure the quarterback has time to control what he can control. You were getting ready to say something, Dr. Pitts?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight the trust, because just in reflecting upon each of the games last week, that word was used over and over and over and over and over again by the commentators calling the games, and how important it is that the quarterback be able to trust his receivers. That they talked about it a lot, especially in the Tampa Bay game, you know, developing that rhythm and being able to trust. And then, of course, they go in when your receivers drop the ball, when your tight ends, you know, whoever it's, or even if the running back fumbles, like the quarterback has to be able to trust that everybody is going to do their part. And, oh, by the way, when you get into the O-line and people missing their assignments and what have you, and the quarterback getting sacked. It's like I'm always fascinated when I see the stats come up on the screen about how many dropbacks, how many sacks, how many not, all of that is important. And you can't help but to wonder, how long does it take before that gets into the QB's head? I reflect on when Michael Vick was playing for the Eagles. Oh my God, I got tired of seeing him get hit. It's like
they were out there
real,
abusing him.
And it's like, oh my gosh, where is what are y'all doing? He is running for his life. I think about when help me. The Panthers played the Broncos in the Super Bowl, and Cam Newton, when they had that.
DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller,
the whole game. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? What can somebody please do your job? But what does that do to the mind of the QB? What does it do to the confidence of the linemen who are missing? And oh, by the way, your QB is getting just annihilated the whole game. All of that stuff plays a big part. I just wanted to add that you got to be able to trust that everybody's going to do their part, because it can mess with your head. It can definitely mess with your head.
And trust me, from a lineman's perspective, when you have one of those games where the quarterback got touched a couple of times, you hear about it. For all the linemen out there, no, you hear about it. You might not hear about it directly during the game, but you will hear about it before the next game.
We talk a lot about the impact that some injuries that players have had that for all intents and purposes could be career-ending injuries. And as you were talking, I remember that game all those years ago when Lawrence Taylor hit Joe Theismann.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, we know that it was a career-ending injury for Joe Theismann, but I remember seeing a documentary, and I don't even remember what it was on, but they were talking to Lawrence Taylor, and he was talking about how that hit messed his head up, because it's like you just ended.
You hear it like.
Yeah, ended a colleague's career with a hit, not to mention the fact the person was supposed to be blocking him. It's like you're supposed to protect his blind side. You didn't protect his blind side, and now his career is over because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And it really does appear to be a domino effect that everybody's psyche is adversely affected.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I remember we played LIU Post, and their running back, two of our defensive linemen, they had, like, when they had tackled him, one of them was wrapped around his legs, and the other one that came from the top. And we heard his leg snap from the sideline. Like, yeah, even when it doesn't happen to you or it doesn't happen to one of your teammates, even just in the field of combat, like, it's a humbling sight, because it reminds you, like, any play that could be me. Anytime somebody had a neck injury, the neck injury, not to get too deep into it, but the people who had the neck injuries or the really bad concussions, those was always the ones where everybody's looking around like. The most awkward part of any time somebody gets really injured is the very first play after you resume, because everybody's kind of looking around like, y'all ready? Y'all good? Like, y'all still want to do this? Because like you have to, but it's like, I just watched his legs snap in half. I just watched his eyes roll in the back of his head, like, So those things do happen, and part of that, part of the first seed control is also being able to control your emotions on the game, during the game and off the field. And we talked about that earlier, being able to have that control of your emotions, because I kid you not, like, as the player, as coaches always tell players, you have to, be calm, always be still and things like that. Meanwhile, they're on the sidelines. I mean, just going in. I mean, what? Right. I can't tell you how many times our coach, as soon as we get off the sideline, we done went 3 and out. As soon as we sit down on the bench and turn around, he right there in our face just yelling. And, but you have to, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you said that. Remember, there was all the commotion last week because Bruce Arians smacked the player in the back of the
I mean, look, hey, look, there's a,
He just smacked him. He's showing up there, lift his head up.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, nowadays you wouldn't dare do that to a kid in Little League now. But I mean, when I played Little League, I mean, shoot, we had coaches smoking cigarettes on the field and we yell at you in the face. So I mean, like getting smacked in the head. We had a coach.
Oh my God.
We had a coach who would headbutt us and he didn't have a helmet on, and we would be hurting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, some coaches are crazy. Like, hey, just some coaches, when they say they football crazy, they really mean it. Hey, look, I was all in on football. I know some people that was, I was all in, but I know some people that was all in, like all in.
Okay.
So, being able to control your emotions during that, you have to be able to do that. The second C they talk about is commitment. And this is the extent to which an athlete consistently and reliably works towards a goal that they have set for themselves. And when we talk about mental toughness, what do we always talk about when it comes to goal setting? Oftentimes, when we think of goal setting, we always just keep the end goal in mind. We keep what we want, the completion of a goal. That's what we have in our mind. However, we always ignore the process. We ignore the small goals, the intermediate goals that go along into reaching that long-term goal. As an athlete, you have to make a commitment to the grind, the process. When there's no crowd, when there's no fans, when rivals and sports preps and Under Armour and Nike and these camps and these coaches and all that, when nobody is around you, when it's you at Gold's Gym, American Family Fitness, Planet Fitness, whatever gym you go to, whatever football field you work out on, and you out there by yourself with your cleats on, running sprints to days on end, and you sitting there huffing and puffing, wondering like, what the hell am I doing this for? That's the commitment you need every day. Because when you get to that moment, when you have 13 seconds left on the clock, in the divisional round of the playoffs, and you got to score a touchdown, that commitment to the process, the grind, the struggle, that's where that comes in at. So you have to have that commitment. The next C, and I think this is really important, and I think this is the difference between really good players and great players, is challenge. And this is an athlete's drive to be as good as they possibly can be. And oftentimes, not necessarily the challenge from other people or the challenge from, I always tell people, it's not about proving other people wrong, it's about proving you right. That's what it's all, that's what a challenge is. It's not about proving somebody wrong. Yeah, a coach can sit there and tell you, I don't think you can do this. I don't think you're able to do that. And sometimes coaches do it from a motivational standpoint. It might not seem motivational in that moment right then and there, but sometimes they do it to motivate you, because sometimes you need to get your head out your butt and listen to somebody. But go ahead.
I want to ask you two questions, and I want you to frame what you're saying around these two questions. So what do we say, Ronnie, to the athlete that's listening who, heard about it a lot with my team? What do you say to the athlete who's sitting at home, who feels like they're in a slump that they haven't been able to get out of, or who is questioning why they're having inconsistency in their athletic performance? Can you tie that into what you're saying? And that's I have some specific questions for you that you can frame around that. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So when I've shared before, when I got to college, I was recruited as a guard in high school. I never played center since it was Little League, and I had only played it for a season. So when I got to college and they wanted me to be a center, talking about a challenge, that was hell. And so, but one of the things, and people who play baseball or play basketball, even quarterbacks, will understand what I'm saying. When you get in a rhythm, whether it's throwing the ball, shooting the ball, hitting a golf ball, baseball, whatever it is, when you get in a rhythm, you feel it. You don't even think about it. It just becomes subconscious. Like that rhythm is there. For me, the moment my rhythm got thrown off snapping the football. For example, we played Bowie State, of course, of all games to mess up Bowie State. So this game, I had 6 bad snaps, 6 terrible snaps. In one game. Oddly enough, I got player of the week for that game too. Oddly enough. Hey, look, the bad snaps were bad. Don't get me wrong. But your boy, I had Jared know who I'm talking about. I don't know his name, but dude about 6'6", 350 in front of me. He got all that work. Gave what LaShawn McCoy said, gave him crazy work.
Oh my
Gave him
God.
crazy work that game. Got lineman of the week for the whole conference because I gave him crazy work. However, when the snaps, it was muddy out there. So the snaps were like wide left, wide right, short, rolling on the ground. And so I kid you not, for about the next 3 games, and even during those practices, I was so fixated on just getting the snap right that my technique for everything else, my technique for blocking, my steps, my combo blocking, communicating, all that got thrown off because I was so focused on just get the ball to the quarterback. Just get it,
Wow.
just snap it. And so, slumps happen. Those things happen, and you get in your head. And oftentimes it's just you getting in the head. And just what I always say, when you think instead of reacting, you're a step slower than everybody else on the field, whether it's football field, baseball field, basketball court. When you think out there doing live play, you will always be a half a step behind people. Now, to get out of that slump, and any slump, and athletes know this, to get out of a slump, you go to work. You go back to your fundamentals. For me, it was like normally doing, pre-practice and stuff like that. I would, work on snaps with the quarterback and everything like that. So instead of, also as opposed to doing it pre-practice, I made sure after practice, I was getting an extra 50 to 100 snaps in, snapping and stepping, snapping and blocking, just making sure that when the games came around, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just reacting. And it took me about 2 or 3 games to really get my head out of it because like you mess up in practice, yeah, you might get yelled at and cursed at, cool, messed up in practice. But when you snap the ball 20 yards behind the quarterback head during the game,
oh my gosh,
people see that, like, it ain't like, it ain't like the coach is blowing the whistle, all right, run it back, go back to where you was and run. No, like that's a turnover. So like those matter. And sometimes the game can come down to 1 turnover. Luckily, I never was put in that position. Thank God. But, those slumps happen. So I always encourage athletes, when you get in that slump, go back to the fundamentals. For linemen, those fundamentals is practicing on your steps, practicing taking your first steps, whether it's a front step, angle step, bucket step, side step, kick step, whatever that is. Practice those fundamentals. Practicing taking 2 steps and blocking, for centers, snapping and stepping, snapping and throwing your offhand up and things like that. Going back to the fundamentals and just practicing those over and over again until they are subconscious again. And then you're just reacting instead of thinking. So that's my short answer on how to handle slumps and things like that. You said you had another question too, right?
Yeah. I've got a bunch of that I want you to tie into and address. Talk about the relationship between competitive advantage and the fear that sets in when a player is coming back from an injury, and also tie that into tie that into fear, and also fear particularly where players are coming back from an injury as it relates to competitive advantage. What advice would you give our athletes that are listening to overcome fear?
Man. So I was kind of in this situation, sort of. So, I shared before that, prior to my junior season, messed my knee up, had knee surgery, didn't go too well. So played the whole season on torn meniscus, tore my other meniscus and my other knee halfway through the season. Got through that season. So going into my my redshirt junior year, but ended up being my last year. We had got a new O-line coach. So he had no idea of the extent of what I had to go through just to get to that point, to be able to be ready for the season. So, when he came in during spring ball, I had missed all of spring ball because I had knee surgery. So I wasn't able to be out there in practice. So he couldn't see me. All he could just know was what he saw on game tape and stuff from the previous season. And so, for him to come in there and, want to prove himself, he was like, I don't care what you did last season. It's all about this season. So during training camp, I had got benched week 2 of practice because I couldn't pass any conditioning tests because I could barely run. And B, because I wasn't able to run as much, and I really had to play myself back into shape, I looked terrible out there. So I got benched. And at first I was like, yo, this dude don't even know who I am. Now, mind you, I'm just I don't mind proving myself. I'm all about putting the work in. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, like, you don't even know what I had to go through just to get to this point. Like, you see it as I'm not trying hard enough, but yo, like, I'm literally out here forcing myself out of bed, forcing myself into the stance and trying to block, dudes who are my size and bigger. I don't have the leg strength anymore. So, that fear you have, for me, the fear of, was I even gonna be able to start my last year? Like, was I gonna be able to prove myself that I could start? I ended up proving myself, the last 2 weeks of camp, had to, do my little thing and whatnot. But just
how did you get to that point though, Ronnie? How did you build up the mental stamina and get yourself back in that competitive mindset to muster up the strength to get to that point? I think that our athletes can benefit from understanding how to do that.
So for me, and this might not be the healthiest way to rationalize a situation like that, but for me, like I said, I never rode the bench any year of football. The only year I had remotely rode the bench was my very first year playing football. I was 8 years old because I had never played football before. Outside of that, I started every year I touched the football field.
Wow.
And so for me, talking about challenges, it was a challenge to myself. I knew that, having 2 messed up knees, I wasn't the person I was a season ago. I damn sure wasn't the person I was 2 seasons ago when I had perfectly good knees. But I knew that I had put this work in. I knew I was better than my backup. I knew I knew the plays. I knew I just had to get out there and tell myself, when I'm on this field, just give it everything you got for today. Just get through today. And same thing, like going out there, making sure I make almost kind of the same thing like Kobe was, like in film, make sure I answered all the questions in film. When the coach asked what you got to do, even if it wasn't my position, oh, I know, coach, I know. So making sure I stepped up, making sure I knew all the calls and the plays, make sure I knew all the commands, how to call the mic, how to set the blocking scheme and things like that. Making sure that when I got in for my reps, because that second team, you didn't get a lot of reps. And I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that in a second. So first team was majority of the reps. Second team barely took any reps. So whereas he's getting 8-9 reps, I'm getting 3 to 4 reps. So, but in those 3 to 4 reps, I didn't make mistakes. I made sure that I did everything I was supposed to do. And when my time came, when they saw that, okay, yeah, now he's clearly better, I made sure that I proved myself why I put myself back in this position of, I showed them that I'm better. Let me continue to show them every single day, because this all I have is every single day. Now, the little tidbit in there is, now because I was on the second team, my knees got saved a little bit because I went out there on every single rep. So I did take that time to make sure I did extra rehab, extra stuff on the sideline, stuff like that, to make sure that when it was my reps, I was ready. But it all goes back down to doing what got you to that point, doing the fundamentals, doing the basic things, taking care of yourself. Because I could have easily pointed the finger and been like, well, coach, it's not my fault my knees messed up. Like, what you want me to do? Like, it's the strength coach from the season before. It's his fault because he had us doing improper squat techniques. But nobody cares when you point the finger. So, so all the athletes out there listening, take it from somebody who literally I went out there and got All-American my last year with 2 bum knees.
Wow.
Not easy in any sense of the imagination, but you go out there and do work. You go out there and put the work in. You finish through every rep. As a lineman, block until you hear the whistle, and then keep blocking the extra second after that. Let them know, yo, I ain't playing. I'm here.
Wow.
Finish through the line on them sprints. Go to the weight room. Do extra reps. All right? Because at the end of the day, you have to, and we're going to get, and it gets to the last C as well, which is confidence. You have to have a belief within yourself that when I walk on this field, I am the best. I'm going to show you why. Go ahead.
I love that. Well, I was waiting for you to get to the confidence one, because I want to have some discussion around how do you manage your confidence level when there's other athletes that have a knack for psyching you out.
Ooh, so I had to learn this the hard way. I actually got suspended in high school for the rest of the season behind this lesson. Yeah. So my sophomore year in high school, we were playing Hopewell High School for homecoming. And now fast forward to the second quarter, it's 48-0.
Oh dear.
Just blown. We scored 30. I think we scored 35 in the first quarter, blowing them out the water. Literally, it was easy homecoming. But second quarter, I'm playing tackle. Dude in front of me, he's like about 6'2", about maybe 230, 240. Nice size, but not really good. Giving him crazy work. I'm blowing him off the ball 10, 15 yards. Like I knew this was a highlight. In high school, you have highlight tape games where you got that team on the calendar where you know, like, I definitely got to get some stats for this game. So this was a stat game for me. Now, second quarter, I never forget it. I blocked him maybe 5 or 6 yards down the field. And he pushed me. Now, in the heat of competition, you push me, I'm going to push you back. During the game, I'm not a big talker. I don't like necessarily talking during the game because I'm just going to blow you off the ball. That's my talking. That's just me. I have some teammates who love to talk during the game. It's cool and whatnot. But during the game, I'm just going to blow you off the ball. So he pushes me. I push him back. And I start to turn around. And he calls me the B word. And I was just like, I went to turn around. I was like, huh? I was like, what'd you say, bro? He's like, yeah, you heard me. And so he goes to hit me in my helmet. So I grab him by his helmet. Next thing I know, now, granted, it was for me, I was like, whatever. But so now he's got a hold of my helmet and trying to basically rip my helmet off my head. So I managed to rip his off, get off 2 clean hits, trying to get him off my helmet. Boom, thrown out the game. Now, mind you, I was giving this dude work the whole first quarter and up until that point in the second quarter. But because he called me, the B word, it just went in. I was like, what? Huh? Now I'm like, now you got to show me I'm one. That was my mindset. Now you got to show me. You're going to call me, well, show me I'm one. And because of that, like, I actually got, kicked out of that game because I threw a punch. And I was suspended the rest of the season, which was the final 2 games of the season that year. Yeah. All because I let somebody get into my head. And from that moment on, I learned a valuable lesson. Let your coaches always say it. Let your past do the talking. But I will say this, as far as confidence goes, I will say that, and, outside of football, my confidence has gone up and down throughout life, outside of football. That's something that is always a work in progress. But on the football field, if there was one place my confidence rarely ever wavered, was on the football field. I kid you not, Dr. Pitts, and I say this to all athletes, like, I never used to be in awe of somebody else and be like, nah, they're just better than me. You had to prove it to me. You had to prove it. Like, go ahead.
In that, just to piggyback, well, I want you to continue what you were saying, but flesh that in this context. So I'm thinking about the Panthers Broncos Super Bowl, and I remember the press conference leading up, and when they asked him how he felt about playing against Peyton, he made a comment about the GOAT, and I remember thinking at the time, does that make him nervous? Did it make him nervous that he was playing against Peyton? And if he psyched himself out, and that's why they played so poorly. I think the game.
No, his offensive line let him down.
They did. They absolutely
they did terrible. Cam had no time. Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware literally, they gave him hell that whole game. Like,
yeah. Like, he was in the huddle, like, gasping for it. But I was just curious, just where that.
But I will. I think in that context of confidence, I think it's healthy to have. I think it's always healthy to have nerves, like, because even when you're, like, for example, like in the championship game my last year at State, when we played against Winston-Salem, their whole D line was D1 transfers. And their 3 tech was the 2-time conference defensive player of the year. And so, it's like, well, when you, like, for me, I was first team all conference as a center. He's defensive player of the year for the whole conference. So, like, for me, I'm just like, it's healthy nerves because it's like, yo, like, I gotta see it. Like, I saw you on tape and stuff, but I gotta see it. I gotta feel it. I gotta see why you as good as they say you are. And so to answer your question, I think it's okay to have healthy nerves, but I think once the game starts, you got to show me why. Like, and I say that to all athletes, like, it's okay to feel like you're the best. Go out there and show why. Let your past do the talking. Let your work ethic, let your technique do the talking for you. It's one thing to go out there and say it, but I always tell people, if you're gonna go out there and say it, you better back it up.
Yeah.
Because whoever you running your mouth to, and then you go out there and try and embarrass them, hey, that's a man too.
Yeah.
A man ain't just gonna let you embarrass him like that. So, but for me, when it came to confidence, you have to have it. Like, I'm only 6'1". I'm short in football terms, especially as an offensive lineman. I'm short. Bowie State had a dude that was 6'6", 6'7", 350. Lincoln had a dude that was 6'8", 425. Winston-Salem's whole defensive line was no shorter than 6'2". Show me you good. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how big you are. You got to show me. You got to show. In high school, for those who out there who like the football team, Morgan Moses, y'all's right tackle. I played against him in high school 2 years. The guard for the Buffalo Bills, Quentin Spain, played at Petersburg High School, played against him 3 years.
Wow.
I'm not on their highlight tapes. What you got to show me. I kid you not, in high school, every team we used to play, I used to find out who's getting recruited by a D1 school, who's getting recruited, period. You guys, and if you was on, we played Manchester High School my senior year, and their right tackle had a full ride at Virginia Tech to play tackle there. I was like, now you got to show me why you going to Virginia Tech, because by that point I was pissed off. They're not looking at me. Well, you only 6'3". You're 2 inches taller than me. I weigh more than you. What they see in you that they don't see in me? So no, you got to show me that you're going to this school. And so that was my confidence in myself to just prove myself right, because I knew I could do it.
Wow.
So as an athlete, you got to know you can do it.
So talk about that, Ronnie, within the context of your confidence, and when an athlete has difficulty rebounding from mistakes or what they see as perceived failures, or when a game is lost because, say, for example, the kicker misses the field goal or whatever. Talk about confidence within that context.
So now, I think in that is, so when we talk about control, and especially in football, and you hear some people say this, where it's a shame that these men go out there, these 22 men on offensive defense go out there and beat each other to hell, only to have somebody who's 150 pounds soaking wet kick a wide right field goal and lose their game off all their effort.
And
And
leave the game in the hands of the kicker. That's what I say.
And so and so that's always an unpopular answer, but to your point, that's always the case. Like, people always get mad at the end of the game when 1 or 2 decisions at the end of the game cost the game. But in all reality, you just played a whole game to get to that point. There was things that happened in the first quarter on the first and second drive that got you to this point. Whether it was an early flag that killed momentum, whether it was a touchdown that was called back that killed momentum, and things like that. So to have that, so the short answer is, you can only control what you can control. Whether it's in especially in team sports. Like I said, in team sports, yes, it's team-minded, it's team-oriented, but you have a group of individuals who are moving in synchrony to make that team, make that illusion of a team realistic. But it only takes one person on the football field to mess up everything. You have 11 people on each side of the ball. It only takes one person to mess it up. So in order to go 11 out of 11, as to the individual athlete, control what you can control. Do your job. Don't go pointing the finger at the safety or the DBs or the linemen when the linebacker didn't get the call and don't know what to do. Don't go pointing the finger because you didn't do your job. Don't worry about nobody else. Make sure you did your job first before you can sit there and point the finger at somebody else.
That's good stuff.
So that's my short answer to it, because, things happen. Like I said, we had a teammate who cost us a championship. We didn't even get to play the game
because of the fight at the banquet. That man, he's lucky he got He ain't get choked out.
Man, hey, look, you talking about you know it's bad when
Y'all
Stephen
didn't beat him down. Tell the truth. Y'all didn't beat him down.
What Dave Chappelle say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I was just at the table eating my cheesecake. That's all I remember.
You plead the fifth. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all I remember. But even in that instance, you know it's bad when Stephen A. Smith roasts you on national television.
Wow.
Because he a Winston-Salem alum, so you already know, like
he went in.
But don't best believe I tweeted him next year we won when we beat them in the championship game. Yeah. And so Stephen A., if you're listening right now, best believe I saw in 2013 what you said. All right.
I heard what you had said about my team.
But things happen, even the Cowboys, for example, we can't sit there and say that Dak didn't do everything humanly possible to put them in a position to win. You know what I'm saying? Even down to the very last second, he did everything in his power to put himself in a position to win. He controlled what he could control. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, even though it didn't work out in their favor, it was a tough loss. And, you have an off season to think about it. But once again, you go back to work. You go back to the fundamentals. You learn. It's only a loss if you don't take the lesson from it.
Right. Emmett said what's today? Today's Saturday. I want to say it was Thursday night on our local news. They interviewed Emmett Smith about it. And I loved what he said. It was PC, it was eloquent. He said, we have some inconsistencies that we have to get resolved.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
bottom line.
And so, and I mean, in that instance, when you think of like the penalties and things like that, and those are the things when we talk about mental toughness, not being in your own way. Oftentimes, really good teams can be in their own way, but when you're winning, you let those things slide because it's like, well, we're winning in spite of these penalties. Yeah. It's only a problem when you lose in spite of those penalties. Right. And so just things like that comes down to mental toughness.
Giving up yards. Yeah.
Not doing your job, not being self-accountable, not being held accountable, or being coachable in things in situations like that. Because those penalties can come back and bite you later down in the season or even in a game. And so, so all those things, I think when it comes to the confidence in athletes, like I always tell people, when it comes to confidence for yourself in a healthy way, have a Kanye level of confidence. Despite what people think, despite what people think of Kanye West, the one thing you can't sit there and say the man ain't never been confident in himself. Like he's always said, if you don't believe in you, who else will? That's right. And I mean, I really believe like if you don't believe in yourself to go out, especially at the like leadership positions like quarterback, the point guard of a basketball team, the shortstop of a baseball team, the team captains and things like that. If you can't make your team believe that you are able to lead them, if you don't believe you're able to lead them, why would they believe?
Right.
If Tom Brady didn't have the supreme confidence in himself, that his preparation, that his work ethic, that his time that he puts into his craft did not make him the person he is, if he didn't believe that, the Buccaneers would have never believed in him last season when they were, I think, 7-5. And, just got blown out by the Saints going into the offseason and then turn around and win the Super Bowl. Yeah. But they believed that he was able to do that and they bought into it. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to buy into what you're selling, even at the coaching level. If your team
any level, that's life too. That's a life lesson. And we're almost out of time. And that's how I want us to sort of wrap up today is that, we've been talking the whole show about the competitive advantage and how to have it and what happens when you lose it, how to get it back and all of that. But I think it's also really important for our audience to be aware that competitive advantage is literally relevant in every area of your life. When you look at your ability to perform under pressure, being organized, meeting challenges, effective communication with others, handling success and failure, a couple of others, taking risks, being patient, being flexible, respect, accepting criticism and feedback in order to learn, your ability to self-evaluate, for goodness sake, and having a growth mindset. The, it's so important. And then the last one, which I think is the holy grail of a competitive edge, is discipline and self-control. I think it
Yeah.
all comes down to discipline and self-control. And as you said beautifully, Ronnie, in the beginning of the show, that's on and off the field. That's on and off the court. That's, all on and off the baseball diamond, about whatever sport you're playing. These skills that you have and the ones that you're learning are transferable skills. They are going to serve you well in every aspect of your life, within sports and outside of sports, when you make the decision to master them. It's about mastery. And if you really truly want to have the competitive advantage, it's your ability to maintain appropriate discipline, self-control, and balance, so that you are positioned to be successful within the context of your athletic performance and literally every area of your life. Because one thing we know to be sure and certain, and we see it all the time demonstrated in the media, if you are not successful in life, if you're not successful in demonstrating these mastery of these skills outside of your athletic play, oh, trust and believe it rolls over into your athletic performance. We hear about it all the time. We see it all the time. We don't have to go into the names of those professional players that, their personal life has come back to bite them in the behind, but it has. And it has been career ending for some athletes. It has adversely impacted confidence with a number of athletes. And it's something that people have to be aware of. And I think it's important to respect it. I think it's important to respect it. What's your final thought on this topic, Ronnie, as we wrap up for today?
I think, I think when it comes to, mental toughness and, the competitive advantage and things like that, like I said, if I could sum it up in what it all means, like I said, the story I shared at the very beginning, when I think of the essence of mental toughness, I think of Mamba mentality, being able to prove yourself right every day, that you are doing what you need to do in order to be the best person and athlete you can be when you walk on that field or court or whatever. But there's so much that goes into that. You have to be able to withstand the adverse times, the terrible times, the setbacks, the disappointments, being able to have the control, the emotional control and emotional regulation to get through that, the commitment to see things through. Even when that end goal, you can't even see it. Do you trust yourself to take the next step at least? If you can't see the end, can you see right in front of you? And if so, make that commitment to take that next step. And then the step after that. Then the challenge. Do you have the wherewithal to challenge yourself, no matter what it is? Because you will be, in order to be great in sports, you have to be challenged. You cannot be great in sports if you're not challenged. So will you be able to step up to the challenge? And then last and certainly not least is the confidence of it all. Knowing that you can do it, knowing you have the ability to do it, the work ethic to do it, the skills, the mindset, the insight to do all the things that you say you want to do. And so if you don't have those things, then, if you're not real with yourself, you will be disappointed. But for the athletes out there listening, the parents of athletes out there listening, these 4 things I think are extremely important in helping your child, your student athlete, build that championship mindset, not only for sports, but for life afterwards as well.
Indeed. My final thought is this: stay on the light side of the competitive advantage. And what I mean by that is do everything that Ronnie just recommended that you do and avoid the dark side of competition. You don't want your competitive advantage to trickle over into your striving to avoid inferiority, because as we've said, that striving to avoid inferiority has been linked to depression, anxiety, stress, and self-harm. And we don't want that to be your story. We want you to have the competitive advantage in a healthy, fulfilling, balanced, high-performance way that doesn't erode your mental health in the process. That's all we have for you today, folks. We want you to go enjoy some more football. It's going to be a great weekend. Sorry about all my peeps in the Northeast corridor, 60 degrees here. And I'm going to enjoy me a little bit of sun today. Love y'all much. Have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you right back here next week, same time. Happy Saturday, everybody. See ya.
Have a good weekend, y'all.